All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of How I Built This, Birmingham style. Stories of entrepreneurs around the Birmingham area, folks that have taken that entrepreneurial punch that they had and used it to their advantage and built a business from the ground up into a big time success. Of course, I'm Ron, CEO and founder of two consumer service brands based right here in Birmingham, Alabama, Two Maids and a Mop and Pink Zebra Moving, as you can see behind me. And today we have a really, really cool guest. Gusty Gulas is the leader of the Gusty Gulas Group, and Gusty is not just a realtor. He's one of the most prominent realtors in the Birmingham area. He was the president of the Birmingham Association of Realtors a couple of years ago. He's the top-rated realtor on Zillow. He's been featured in numerous national publications, and he's been a part of hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of transactions over the last several years as he started his business way back in the mid 2000s. So Gusty, welcome to our podcast today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ron, for having me. I think it's one of those things you want to give back to the community. And I love that you're doing this for Birmingham. And, I just love being a part of it. So thank you.
Oh, man, it's an honor. And I can't wait for everyone to hear your story. I've heard a little bit about it, but I'm like everyone else. I'm really all ears right now, just looking forward to hearing, especially those early days. I love the early day stories. So let's talk about those early days. I don't know if you have real estate in your blood or if this is just something that kind of came to you one day, but what brought you into the industry? What made you want to do this and for a living?
Yeah, what's interesting is my major was actually radio management. So I went to Bama, graduated in 2003, and I actually wanted to be like a booking agent. I wanted to go to Nashville. I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. And so I did my internship on Music Row in Nashville, and I had a blast, but that was back in 2002. And I didn't realize like how cutthroat the music industry was. Right. And so having been up there, worked for a management agency, the big artist, if you're a country music fan, the big artist that we helped manage was Neil McCoy, and just a great dude, by the way. And we worked on all kinds of different stuff. And while I did that, I really, was trying to make connections, just like, building relationships wherever you go. And through that process, I kept on meeting people, but I realized, like, again, how difficult it was. So I really made the decision really then at that summer that it really just wasn't for me. But I knew I just needed to just get that diploma and then I'd figure it out, right? I just, figure it out. So graduated from Bama, really was just looking for a job, ended up getting into the mortgage industry. And so I did, I worked for a company called AmeriQuest Mortgage in the Birmingham market. And basically what we did was we dialed for dollars. So one of the big things, and this I think has helped me tremendously as growing a sales company, but just growing a business, is we had to either call 150 people a day or get 5 applications. And so I focused on great conversations. I didn't want to call 150 people a day.
Right.
So, I mean, like, who wants to do that, right?
5 sounds easier than 150.
No doubt. So I was usually the first person in the office. I was one of the last to leave. But I really focused, like, before anybody ever got to the office, I typically had 1 or 2 applications. And so, again, I just wanted to start my day, but it really was all focused on customer service and providing a great experience. And so I did that for a couple of years. And so I did that from 2004 to 2006. And then actually moved back up. So I was in the mortgage business for 2 years. I moved back up to Nashville and helped open up a mortgage company for about 4 months. And moved back to Birmingham. Just the grass wasn't as green as we thought it was. And then also my dad was getting into some health issues. And so I wanted to be back closer to family. And so really since then, I've just made, Birmingham home. And at that time, I went back to work for AmeriQuest Mortgage. What's funny is, like, I was probably the only person that got to work there 3 different times. Which was pretty interesting. But in May of 2006, they shut down all retail operations around the country. And so that was a pivotal moment for myself because it allowed me to really figure out what I really wanted to do. And so my dad, a few months before that, passed away, but he was a big restaurateur in town. And my dad, always remember my dad saying, you either need to run the restaurants, which I had no interest in, or you need to get into real estate. And so I had that in the back of my mind. And then also my mother-in-law, or now my mother-in-law, is a realtor in Gadsden. And she's like, why don't you just go get your real estate license? You'll talk to anybody. So when I got laid off from AmeriQuest Mortgage and they shut down all retail operations around the country, it put me in that position to make a change. And so I went and got my real estate license, knocked that out in a couple of weeks once I made the decision to move forward. And really the rest is history.
We'll talk about that history.
Yeah.
I don't, sorry to interrupt you there, but one thing that really struck me in your story, it's very similar to my own, and I think it's similar to most entrepreneurs that decide to start a business. There's usually some tipping point. It's rare that Steve Jobs is just born in all of us. There's usually something that happens in our professional life that takes us in a direction where there's enough little bit of a pain even that says, all right, I'm done. I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to be like in your case. If you work for these guys for a long time, it sounds like you're pretty loyal to the business and the brand, and you had probably worked a lot of hours for these guys. And then overnight, you lose a job that you had nothing to do. You'd only produced success for these guys.
Sure.
And that very similar story myself, and so that pain, if anyone's watching this, anyone's listening, anyone's thinking like, should I start a business or not? Do I have it in me? I don't know very many, forgive me for any 18-year-olds that have, flipped a business and made billions, but I don't know many folks that haven't went through some form of a professional journey that involved some form of pain before they started a business. I think that pain is good for you. It carries with you forever. You never forget it. And it becomes a learning lesson that makes you want to get through the trials and tribulations you go through as you build that business from the ground up. So you probably didn't welcome the news when they informed you. I'm assuming it was sort of out of the blue. But when you received the news, it was probably not the best night of your life, but it turned out to be.
We made the most of it.
Sounds like one of the better news events of your life. So
yeah. We kind of heard rumblings the night before, and so, but you just never know. Like, hey, is this a rumor? Is this real? And then we had 10 security guards walk in and said, hey, you got 10 minutes to clean up your personal belongings off your desk, and you can't touch any of your files. Okay. All right. So what are we doing? It's 9:30 a.m. Let's go get some beer, and let's it's probably gonna be the last day we see each other for the rest of our lives. So let's just make it the most and so we had a fun day, and really it was the next day, like, all right, what do I want to do in my life?
Right. So you're in your 20s at this time, right?
Yeah.
So you're in your 20s. Your mother says become a real estate agent.
Yeah.
You take the test, you become licensed, you're a real estate agent. Did you start on your own? Did you work with another firm before you started your own business? So
I started with a company called Abana Realty, which is now called Century 21 Advantage. And, I'm really thankful for them. I learned a lot from them. And I think one of the big things that anybody listening to this is, in every scenario, in every business, take a bit of information and learn from it. Like, I consider myself a student of the industry, and I want to learn from every single person that I meet. And so I learned a lot from these folks. I took my experience, really dialing for dollars, moved that over to the real estate sales side of the business. Luckily, they were a company that was, in my opinion, tech forward. And so they were generating leads. So I was able to jump on their website and start working some of their leads. And, that was the later half of 2006. So, it really put me in a position to kind of lay a good foundation of my real estate business. And so within 3 months of me getting my real estate license, I closed 3 deals to wrap up the end of 2006. And then in the first 5 months of 2007, closed 17 deals. So, you know, you've got, like anything, like any business, and especially sales, you got to build a pipeline. And so it's not like overnight, hey, you know, I'm going to sell all these houses. It just doesn't work like that. You truly have to build a pipeline, and you've got to, there's a lot of grit that you've got to go through and build that pipeline up. And so, you know, over a 9-month period, I was able to build a good quality book of business. But then, you know, coming into 2007, and then even into 2008, I mean, we came into the recession. And so that was another hurdle that had impacted everybody that was working at that time. So
you decided to start a real estate business in the worst real estate period in American history, basically.
I didn't know any better. You know, I mean, I think that was probably to my benefit. Like, I didn't know any better. Like, I was just trying to make a dollar. I wanted to survive. I wanted to do something that I enjoyed. I knew I enjoyed real estate from the mortgage side of things. What I didn't realize is actually realtors have a lot more fun than mortgage people, because mortgages are way numbers driven. Real estate sales is definitely, you know, it's a customer experience. It's people based. Yeah. And so it really is a way more fun industry. And I could never go back to the mortgage side of things, but yeah, I mean, I think that it really, it was a great thing to go into the mortgage side going into the real estate side of the business. But I think what also made me more successful earlier on was my mortgage experience.
Sure. I can see how that could be very helpful.
And so, like anything, we take our experiences and take it to the next thing and make it and get better consistently.
Right. So do you remember the first day you were on your own? Like, this was just you and your business?
Not necessarily. You know, I just remember, like, you know, sometimes you just don't know and you just go. And then, like, I'm sometimes kind of like a bull in a china shop, and I just, you know, like, I'll go and I'll figure it out along the way.
Right.
I'm not going to be the one that is going to, you know, read the book on how to do this. I'm not like the super detail oriented person. I'm just the driver that gets it done.
You're the bumper car, right?
That's right. So, you know, just get out of my way and let's go. And so, I mean, I think that's really, it was, all right, well, I took the work ethic of having to call 150 people a day. Now let's take it into real estate and let's build a good business. And so it's, all right, well, first off, we had to build our database and think about every single person that you know. Well, I don't think at that time I was on Facebook, but, you know, Facebook has ended up becoming like a really solid database for us, and really for anybody that's in sales. And so, you know, it came from like every single person that's in this thing in the phone, you know, they just they just got into my database.
Got it.
And so just had to build it from there.
So did fear ever hit you? Did the reality of the situation ever, or did you just jump right into it and have immediate success?
Yeah, you know, I think like fear for me is a lot of times it's money related, and like, hey, do I have enough money to survive? What is my runway? And you know, I think I was at that point where I didn't really have anything. So, you know, all I had was to go up.
Right.
I didn't really have anything to lose.
Right.
So, you know, I was, you know, luckily in a position that I didn't have a lot of debts, and I didn't have a lot of, you know, I didn't have kids at that time. I did have a significant other. So I wasn't in a position where, you know, further along, hey, I've got to have like a larger amount of income just to make this survive on a daily basis. I didn't have kids at the time.
Right.
So it really was just, hey, you got to go. I think the fear really for real estate for me came in of really the unknown and the recession. And so I think what I was always doing is I was looking for opportunities to generate revenue. And so I actually towards the end of 2007 went to work for an apartment consulting company that helped renters find apartments, which was a really great business, because then if I built relationships for people finding apartments, guess what's typically their next step? They're buying a house.
Yeah.
So I got into lead generation before, and I didn't even think of it as lead generation. I was thinking of like, hey, this is this is kind of part of the process. And so I ended up in late 2007, worked for a company called Apartment Consultants. And but again, things 07, 08, 09, I think 09 was my biggest. I mean, that was probably the hardest year.
It was a tough time for everyone. I can think back, we're not in the same industry, but we serve very similar customers. We cleaned homes back in 2009. It was scary. We just didn't know where this thing was going. Very similar to the pandemic and what we went through, except it, in a weird way, it was longer. I know the pandemic feels like it's lasted forever, but the recession in 08 and 09 felt like it was long, and it also felt like we were never going to get out of it. It just felt like everybody was losing. Right. And so as a business owner, it was pretty scary times. But one thing that worked for us during those times is it forced us to really look at our business model to figure out if we needed to change some things. And we did. We had to change some things because we couldn't just sit around and wait. So we changed the type of demographic we were marketing to, just like you're talking to folks that are renting, who at some point, once the recession fades away, are going to buy a home. And it sounds like it worked in your favor. And so when you go through these periods, and we all will, it's thankful that we're kind of rising up from the pandemic and all the aftermath from it. But let's face it, I don't know when, hopefully no time soon, but something else is going to disrupt the marketplace, and it's going to change everything about our business, about our way of life. Yeah. And you can just close your eyes and act like it's not happening and keep going forward, or you can look inside and try to do something different, which it sounds like both of us had the good fortune of doing.
I think one of the big things that I kind of keep along with me is, saying that I've kind of heard for a long time, and it's just adapt and overcome. I heard that a ton in our fraternity. And that's one thing that I've really taken through me is, if something, you get a curveball, you get thrown like nobody was expecting a pandemic. You've just got to position yourself, and you got to adapt super quick. And you can't worry about, this, poor me or poor this or poor that. Like, all right, you can be the person that makes the change, and you can be the first one. And so one of the things that I'm big on is being the first to either try something new. And not everything I try is going to be, works. But I am not afraid of what other people think. I'm just trying to position myself for success. And sometimes we're going to swing and hit the fences. Sometimes we're going to swing and strike out. But you've got to take those chances. You've got to take those risks. And especially as a business owner, like, you've got to also support your people. And I think especially through the pandemic, one of the things that we had to do, especially as leaders, is really we didn't let anybody go in the pandemic. That was one of the big things I did not want to mess with. Luckily, and from a real estate standpoint, we were in really good shape. It was really just about a 30, 45 days of unknown. But we didn't let anybody go. We were positioned really well. And so, but the big thing that we had to do was we had to not only, keep our agents and keep our support staff positive, or at least thinking positive. And that was probably one of the biggest things that, through the pandemic, not only did I have to be positive running the business, but you got to keep everybody else around you positive.
Right. Scary stuff. No doubt.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's go back a little bit. You worked for the other realty. You started your own business. 08, 09 happens. You work for an apartment, consulting business. When did you start seeing really positive signs of growth, and you started thinking, this might be something?
Yeah, I think, I got kicked in the teeth a little bit. I got sued for a non-compete. I left the apartment consulting company, and during that whole time I was selling real estate, but was also, supplemental income, and went to work for another apartment consulting company. And in 09 actually got served a cease and desist for non-compete. And so at that time I was a broker for a rental company called Select My Space. And it was that '09 was definitely my most difficult year. It like I felt like I had hit rock bottom. Got sued for that non-compete. But I think the beauty of it, looking back, is it allowed me to make a decision to say, real estate is going to be my career. I am all in on real estate. And really from that moment, I think, I went through probably a really tough 60, 90 days, but through that process, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my relationship with my spouse. But it put me in a position where there was no looking back, like we're going to make this happen and make this work. And so we got through it. A lot of this, I give a lot of credit to my wife. Katie was on the junior board for Glenwood here locally. And one of the big things we've always given back to nonprofits and always, volunteered and raised money and different stuff for different things. And during the recession, the government came out with a grant called the Neighborhood Stabilization Project. And so luckily Glenwood knew that I had real estate experience. They knew I had foreclosure experience, and they were tapped to get 6 houses through the Neighborhood Stabilization Grant. So they introduced me to the grant receiver and was able to get not only Glenwood 6 houses, but through that relationship, built a great relationship with some folks. We were actually able to get Glenwood 16 houses. And so through that project, and then again, building relationships, it allowed us to do 21 acquisitions of homes, 16 for Glenwood and 5 for other projects. And that was a lot of hard work from the second half of '09 actually came into fruition in 2010. And what that allowed me to do is it put me on the map. At that time, I moved to Realty South. And for the majority of that year, I was the number 1 agent at Realty South. I mean, at that time, I'm 28 years old, 29 years old. The average agent is 57. I'm kind of like the grandson of the industry. Right. And all of a sudden I'm the number 1 agent at the number 1 company in the state. And so, through that giving back allowed one door to open. I kicked that door open, built those relationships, and it really put me on the map. And then from that point was just kind of ahead of the game. Like I was early to Zillow. I was early to Trulia. I was one of the early ones to start a real estate team. So, from that moment, like going through the hell of the recession, looking back, it was some of the best stuff because it really toughened me. And there's a lot of things that, especially being a business owner, I would love to say it's always wonderful, but a lot of times it's, being a business owner is super difficult, and you get knocked down, and then when you're knocked down, you get knocked down again. And so you've just got to be resilient and keep on getting back up. And that's what I learned from the recession. Like, don't stop, get back up. If you're going to have a pity party, hopefully that party ends pretty quickly, and then keep on going.
Right. So I know real estate's a unique industry in that you can have like a group, like you just talked about. We'll talk about that in a minute. Or you can work from the basement, So were you working from the basement at that time, or had you struck out on your own and had your own space and had people working with you? Where were you in life?
Yeah, like 2010, I sold 52 houses myself. And 2010, again, I was number two agent, end of the year, number 2 agent. Well, now, I'm basically, our team is we're on track to sell 600 homes. Now that's not me myself, but, it started with me as the rainmaker. All right. And then all of a sudden you just you start the building of the business process. And so then it's like, all right, how do you maximize myself? Well, now I need to bring on a support side of the business. All right. So I bring on a part-time assistant that helps me get to the next level. Then bring on a full-time assistant. Then that gets me to the next level. And then at that point, then you want to create leverage. and then you bring on other people. So then I started bringing on others. Luckily, my first couple of hires ended up being rock stars. And so, those people help get me to the next level. And then all of a sudden we're going from 52 homes to 63 homes to 101 homes to 156 homes. And then, again, it's part of the reason we build that business is leverage, but it's also, hey, we're generating enough leads and referrals, and we can't really handle it all. So we bring on more people, but it's really focused on customer service. So providing that great experience. And that's one thing, growing up in the restaurant business, you want to provide that great customer service experience. And that's what we've really focused on doing and building the business. And so again, you bring on others to support you. And then, you got to know where you're good at. And then the things that you might not be as strong at, you've got to bring on people to fill that role. So luckily we've done that in a really good way.
I'm interested to hear about your transition, because I'm assuming you're a real estate agent at heart. You're probably still selling homes today. However, you're also a business owner. You're a manager of people. You're a leader. You're leading a brand at this point.
Yep.
And so you're becoming a manager for the first time. You're making decisions you've never made before, and you're still trying to sell homes over here. So there was a book written about this called The E-Myth, where the baker tries to become more than a baker, becomes a bakery, and there's a lot of problems with that because she's really just a baker at heart. So how did you manage that transition to becoming more than just an agent?
Yeah, I think it really it was focused on providing a great customer service experience, and I didn't want opportunities to slip through the cracks. And so a lot of our growth came from that piece of it. I think you have to learn to really be able to manage folks. I'm not perfect with it. There's things I look back and say, hey, I wish I would have done this better. But, I think you've got to be empathetic. You've got to, at the end of the day, you've just got to treat people the way you'd want to be treated. And I'm not a micromanager. I hate being a micro. I hated getting micromanaged. And so, I think if you bring on the right people and you hire the right people and you trust them and they build trust over time, then you can lean on people. But you've got to meet them where they're at. There's a lot of people go through highs and lows, and you've got to be able to support them when they're on their lows. And you've got to be able to understand what their triggers are and really just be supportive. That's probably one of the biggest things I've had to learn. Like, in the management of people, it's almost the management of emotions. And it's almost, psychology and being a therapist sometimes. I think you just got to meet people where they're at. And you've got to show that you care. And then I think if you're doing that, you're building a great relationship with people and you're building trust. And if you do that, I think you can work with these folks a long time. And that's what I've focused on.
So things are going well. You're just rocking it. You're selling, you're hiring rock stars, you're growing your business. Things are recovering from that nastiness of 08, 09.
Yeah.
You said today you're at 600 or on pace for 600 or more homes to be sold in 21. What's your business look like today? Like, what you started, many, many years ago, and you're still growing, but where are you today?
Yeah. So our team, we've got 32 agents. We've got 10 support staff. We're on track to close over 600 homes. And where we're headed is a team that's going to close 1,000 plus homes a year in the Birmingham market. So, what we try to do is we try to position ourselves to be really know where the market is going and find the partnerships that are going to take us to be the top agent. And we've been running the top team here since 2012. And so again, that kind of puts a target on my back, but I'm not looking at what other agents in our market are doing. I'm looking at what other agents around the country are doing. And ideally what I want to do is I want to be the first one that's bringing something to the market. So like, for example, the Matterport camera, we were the first ones to bring it in 2015. Zillow back in 09, I was probably the first guy to invest in Zillow and their advertising platforms. What we try to do is try to be one step ahead of everybody. And so, I see us continuing to grow. This year we brought on a sales manager. Last year we brought on a chief marketing officer, which happens to be my wife, and who has some amazing experience. She ran social media at BBVA. She ran digital marketing at UAB Health Systems. So you're starting to see a lot of changes in our social media. You're going to start seeing more changes in our marketing. And so, really, we're building a brand. We built a brand in Brick Realty. We ended up merging that with EXP Realty. And so now we're focused on building not only the Gusty Gulas Group in the Birmingham market, but we're also helping grow EXP Realty actually around the globe.
That's so cool. I mean, that's the American dream, right?
Yeah.
You're living it as we speak. And still, what's so great about it is, I mean, a lot of people could say, Gusty, you've done it, man. Just go buy the boat. But you still got dreams in front of you. That's ultimately what I think entrepreneurship's about, is just finding it something you can dream about, a goal, a purpose, and going and never stopping.
Yeah. I think I think it's just put me on a different level. And then, I start hanging around different folks and I start seeing things that are potential. Like I did not say, originally, hey, I wanted to grow a real estate brokerage, or, hey, I wanted to sell 1,000 homes. It's relationships, seeing, oh my gosh, I've got a friend that is selling 1,000 homes. I've got a friend that's selling 1,800 homes. I've got a friend that's selling 2,500 homes around the country. Like, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And so I've had 1,000 homes sold as a goal for a long time, and we're closing in on it.
I love it.
And so I'm motivated. I'm very competitive, but also I know that if we get to 1,000 homes, I'm helping other people grow too. And so it's not just about the money. It's helping make an impact on my team, my staff. Like, every decision that we make now at this point not only impacts 32 agents and 10 support staff. Well, most of those agents and staff have some sort of, partner or spouse. So double that. And then many of them have kids. So every decision I make impacts over 100 people. So I think you constantly have to grow and you constantly have to recreate. And, I enjoy growing, both personally and professionally. And I think it would be boring if I just sat back and just did nothing. I don't know what what are you going to twiddle your thumbs? Like,
yeah. Well,
I don't think I'll ever actually retire.
That's what the boat's for. So
yeah, maybe so. We'll go fishing.
All right. So this has been a heck of a story. I'm going to try to double down, be super greedy, and try to even make it even cooler here. So
okay.
Wonderful story, but I have some questions for you. Some impromptu,
man.
Completely random. If
Okay.
you've watched the show before, you already know a few of these questions, but I'm going to assume you haven't, and hit you, right out of left field. So go all the way back to those early days when you were doing all these different things. You talked about a little bit of legal situation. I don't know what it is, but I'm assuming something in your past, especially during those early days, that you wish you could start over and do over again. What's that one thing, and what would you do differently today?
Yeah, I think all things happen for a reason. I wouldn't necessarily change my path. What I would do differently is I would invest in real estate a lot earlier. I was in a position to buy houses in, say, Crestwood in 2010. Man, holy cow, I was selling a ton of them. I should have just bought one every 6 months or one every year. And just from the price escalation, oh my gosh,
right,
my wealth would have built tremendously. And so if I had to do anything, I would definitely invest in real estate a lot earlier.
All right. So you said you don't read books and then go and do something because of that. I'm a book nerd.
Okay.
And so I've read way too many books, especially business leadership. I've just overdosed on it,
Yeah.
So I could tell you dozens of quotes. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You don't have to have a quote right out of the top of your head that's, perfectly phrased. But if you could think of one piece of advice, no matter what direction it is related to your business, but one piece of advice that you heard many years ago that you're using today that others that start a business should probably get around as well, what would it be?
Yeah, I said it earlier, adapt and overcome. I mean, we were kind of groomed that in the fraternity. And, I think especially in business, you have to consistently adapt. Like technology is moving fast. The last year has escalated that. Look at all these restaurants that had to make changes. I mean, so, from our standpoint on the real estate side of things, we were already pretty tech forward. So it would just now the customers started feeling a little bit more comfortable to meet us at that point. So we had been doing FaceTimes and we had been doing virtual, tours. And so now the consumer was now at a point where they felt a little bit more comfortable with that, but you've got to adapt and overcome. I don't know where the quote came from, but you're like, especially if you're a business owner, expect the unexpected and adapt and overcome. Also, I think, from that standpoint, just a recommendation, just have a mentor. Be willing to ask people to mentor you. And I think that helps too. Listening to podcasts like this, we all have stories. We've all gone through hell. And we're still here.
That's right. Still here, even through COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So I want to end on something fun. I think we both share a passion for Birmingham. This entire podcast is built on entrepreneurship around the Birmingham area. And we've heard from so many people about their success and growth. And a lot of it's because of this city, this area. It's a little known gem, in my opinion. And so what's your thoughts on the economic climate of Birmingham? If you were to start a business tomorrow outside of real estate, would this be the city to do that in?
I mean, I'll tell you, we're actually positioned really well from a city standpoint. We're in a state that's very tax friendly from a property tax standpoint. So, if you're looking at bringing in jobs, you've got a climate where leadership in the state is willing to work with you to bring you here, and there's tax incentives typically, especially from a big network that's going to bring a lot of jobs. But a quality of life. Where you may think we're our city's expensive, but comparatively speaking, we're still super affordable and cheap compared to a lot of places. So, we have a lot of people that move here from all over the country, but a lot of people are moving here because, Atlanta and Nashville have gotten so expensive. So we are, just a very affordable town. I think the mayor of Birmingham has done a great job over the last 3 years. And positioned us a little bit more on the map. He's brought a lot of attention by being, a young guy that has, made some big moves especially on a national standpoint. I think that opens us up and brings attention. I think with a couple of big companies that have gone public and been acquired, I think that's brought more attention. I think some of the things that we've got to do and focus on is, again, we've got to create more jobs. We've got to create a good pipeline for education, whether it's instead of folks going to college, going into some sort of workforce development. But we are definitely in a position for success. I see a lot of growth for Birmingham. And, this is definitely where, my career will continue to thrive in this market. So I'm very excited at where we're at.
Yeah, I share the same sentiment. Gusty, you are a true American success story. So be proud of what you've done. Yeah, I'm proud to have the chance to hear your story.
I appreciate it.
Oftentimes when people think about, businesses, it's this brick and mortar retail shop, maybe they're selling food or making widgets or whatever it might be. Real estate almost sort of get pushed over here as this very transactional type of industry. You've proven that it's bigger than a transaction. It's about the experience. And if you build an experience around it, you can build a business around that, and it can grow and grow and grow. And you've also proven that if you have big goals, owning a business is the easiest way to scratch that nerve and make it happen. So congratulations on the journey. Good luck in the future, hitting that 1,000. And I'm proud to know you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. I'm always happy to help out anytime. If anybody, just needs, a lot of times I'll get phone calls. Hey, what would you do in this situation? I think that's the important thing of being able to tap into what I consider the collective genius, and always happy to help. So that's,
well, if someone doesn't want to work with you, connect with you, just talk to you, what would they do?
Yeah, they can reach out to our website, gustygulas.com. They can also reach out to me directly. I give out my cell number. You can find it 205-218-7560. And then happy to connect on any of the social networks, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
All right, Gusty, you keep on hustling.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.